Hi everyone, I'm Angie Horkan. I'm the Director of Marketing with the Wisconsin Beef Council, and I'm here cooking at our Wisconsin Beef Council office. Just a little bit about the Wisconsin Beef Council. We are checkoff funded, so I work directly for Wisconsin's beef, dairy, and veal producers through a checkoff. So we use that money to educate consumers, to buy consumer advertising, and we invest it in beef research. So today we're going to teach you how to cook holiday roasts. So I've got some of the most popular beef roasts for the holidays here to show you. And actually 60% of these beef roast sales are in December. So they are definitely popular. That's why we're going to feature them today. That's why we feature them the whole month of December through our Wisconsin Beef Council efforts. So I've got 4 roasts here. I've got 2 ribeye roasts. One is boneless, one is bone-in. So I'm going to start with the boneless roast. This is the most popular roast. This is like the king of the table. This is what we sell the most of. This is what Wisconsinites love. There's so many people that create a holiday roast tradition in their house and make it every year. So if you do not, I'm going to tell you how easy it is to do for your family. So the boneless ribeye roast, these are choice. So we want to talk a little bit about beef grades. When you go to the supermarket, you'll probably always find choice beef, and it'll say that right on the label. But if you don't, if it doesn't say choice, it could be select, like this Tenderloin here, which is perfectly fine. Both grades work perfect for these holiday roast recipes. But a choice roast has more marbling. So you'll see in the eyes of these ribeyes, the little flecks of white fat, and that's called marbling. And it's what gives your beef roast its tenderness, its juiciness, and its flavor. When you go to the supermarket or a meat market, the labels will not say prime rib for these roasts. They're gonna say a rib roast or a ribeye roast, bone-in or boneless. Prime rib is more of the name of the cut. Like when you go out to eat, you order a prime rib because prime is actually the highest grade of beef. And most of our prime beef goes to our high-end white tablecloth restaurants, but you might have prime beef in your area in the supermarket, and that's definitely has the most marbling and will have the best eating experience. But these are both choice. So let's talk about serving size for these. How much should I buy for my family? So if you know how many people you're gonna have at Christmas or the holidays, you wanna figure about ½ a pound of a boneless ribeye roast per serving, which seems like a lot. But there's a little bit of waste on these roasts, some of that external fat, which gives it its great beefy flavor, but you're gonna have a little bit of waste. So 2 people per pound. Now the bone-in, I almost figure 1 pound per person. Just because you have those bones, you don't eat those, so you're gonna have a little bit of waste on them. Now also too, I wanted to note, this bone-in rib roast, I asked my meat manager, to kind of remove the bones. So he went and he sliced. So my bones are actually sliced off, but tied back on. And this is important for carving. So when you're done roasting and it's done resting, it will make it a lot easier to carve. But you still have the bones there. Some people, like my dad, say, hey, they taste better with the bone. I don't know, it's totally personal preference. You can get a boneless or a bone-in, and they're both gonna be great eating experiences. So the prime rib is also known for its flavor, because it's out of the rib, so it's got that really, really rich beef flavor. It's a really hearty cut, and it's men's favorite. Okay, so let's move on to the tenderloin. This is my favorite. So this is a 2-pound boneless tenderloin, trimmed, kind of a center cut. You'll see when you go to the supermarket, maybe like a full tenderloin, a whole tenderloin in a bag. You could definitely start with that if you'd like. Sometimes they're priced a little bit more economical. Usually they're the select grade, but we have a great video on our website, beeftips.com, that shows you how to cut that into a center cut tenderloin roast and how to use the rest of it. This is trimmed center cut. I just call and ask for this because it's so easy. So this is ready for the oven. There's like no waste on this. So you can figure 4 people per pound for serving. So you can feed a lot more people with a tenderloin. Or I love roasting these. I like getting bigger than I need and saving and making like a crostini, which we'll do at the end. So a little leftover appetizer recipe, or planned over, not leftover. Okay, and the fourth roast is a strip roast. So this is actually your New York strip steak, but left whole as a roast. Not as popular as the ribeye, the rib roast, or the tenderloin, but really becoming more popular, and we have recipes for these on our website. But kind of similar to the ribeye roast, but it's a strip. So if strip's your favorite steak when you go out to eat, you might want to try a strip roast. And it cooks the same as the other roasts, so it's a great option too. And watch your supermarket flyers and see what your local store has on sale, and that will help you decide which roast to purchase for your holiday meal. Now we're going to get started on our prime rib recipe. So we're going to use our boneless ribeye roast. So what roasting is a dry cooking method that you want to use with tender roasts. Because roasting does not tenderize your beef, it just cooks it. So it's kind of a lower heat. We're going to use a 350-degree oven for a rib or ribeye roast. And you want it to get nice and brown and caramelized and cooked on the outside, but on the inside it's going to stay nice and juicy. So I'm going to make a rub for this roast. We're going to make a Dijon and herb rub. So I'm going to start with 3 tablespoons of Dijon mustard. And then I'm going to add in just some steak seasoning and some dried rosemary. And that is it. So these 3 ingredients will get rubbed on our ribeye roast. And this is actually a dry rub. Or excuse me, a wet rub. A dry rub would be just your seasonings or your herbs and no liquid ingredient. But this is a wet rub with the mustard, so it's going to stick really nice. So with a boneless ribeye roast, we need a shallow roasting pan and a rack. So this is a really nice roasting pan, but you don't have to go out and invest in this if you don't have one already. You could just use a simple metal 9x13 cooking pan, baking pan with a rack, or really any kind of metal pan. If you use a 9x13 glass pan, you want to line it with aluminum foil, because the metal conducts the heat a lot better than a glass pan, and it'll cook a little bit faster. So any one of these pans would work nicely. But you do want to remember the rack, because with the boneless rib roast, we want that heat to circulate around it and roast it on all sides. Now, if we were cooking the bone-in rib roast, you don't need the rack. The bones will act as the rack, so the heat can circulate around it. So I'm just going to put my boneless ribeye roast on my rack, and I'm going to rub it with my Dijon herb rub. I'm going to get that on all sides of it. We already have our oven preheated to 350 degrees. And most importantly, you need a thermometer, and preferably an oven-proof meat thermometer, because this you can put right in the middle of your roast and put in the oven, and you don't have to peek, you don't have to check, you don't have to probe it with an instant read meat thermometer, because these are not oven safe. So if you don't want to use one of these, it's not good in the oven. But then, you know, if you can, digital thermometers, there's plenty of oven-safe digital thermometers, or even really fancy digital thermometers that work with phone apps. Plenty of thermometers out there on the market to buy. I like just buying the simple $5, you can usually even find them now in the meat department, right next to the roasts, $5 oven-proof meat thermometer. So you want to insert this into the middle of your ribeye roast, and you don't want to touch any bone or any fat. So you want to go right in the middle of the eye. So I measured it so I'd know how deep to go, and then I went right in the middle, just like that. And so now this is ready for the oven, so 350-degree oven, and I like to tell people to set a timer for 20 minutes a pound. So this is a 4-pound ribeye roast, so that'd be an hour and 20 minutes, and that's definitely on the light side, because once you go too far, you can't go back. And then watch your thermometer. And the temperature you want to remove this from the oven is 135 degrees. And it's going to continue to cook when you rest it, it'll continue to cook and increase to 145 degrees, which is a nice pink medium rare. If you like it a little more on the medium side, you can let it go to 145 degrees, and then it will continue to rise to 155. Now we're going to make a herb-crusted beef tenderloin roast. So I'm going to start with fresh herbs. And I love cooking with fresh herbs because they add so much flavor without adding any fat. So I have fresh basil, fresh parsley, and fresh thyme. And also at the holidays, I like garnishing with fresh herbs. So whatever herbs I have left over, I'm going to use on my plate when my roasts are done to make a really pretty garnish. Then I have cracked black pepper, and 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. So I'm going to mix this up. And I'm going to rub this right on my tenderloin. Now a tenderloin cooks in a 425 degree oven. So hotter oven than the rib roast. Now tenderloins cook, to me, faster. I would set my timer for about 15 minutes a pound and take a look at it. This is a 2-pound tenderloin, so set my timer for 30 minutes, take a look at it and check it, and you still want those same temperatures. Use the exact same oven-proof meat thermometer. Okay, measure and put that right in the middle of the tenderloin. Now also with tenderloin roasts, you could sear them. So if you want to take the extra step before this, you could rub it with your seasoning or your rub and then sear it in a really hot cast iron pan in a little bit of oil, and it would cook really fast then. A 2-pound tenderloin like this, if you seared it and made a really nice crust on the outside, I would say set your timer for 15 to 20 minutes and check it. Now for this recipe, we also have a side that goes with it. We have fingerling potatoes, shallots. We're going to toss them with extra virgin olive oil, kosher salt, and some more cracked black pepper. Let's give that a toss. And these are going to go on your roasting pan alongside your tenderloin. That is ready for the oven. We've removed our rib roast from the oven and we tented it with foil. So it's been resting for about 15 to 20 minutes. We removed it when the thermometer was about 135 degrees, and now it's increased 10 degrees to 145 degrees, so we're ready to carve. Okay, so now we're gonna carve our prime rib roast. And I also wanted to mention, one of the reasons we let it sit and rest is so the juices that are boiling in the roast and doing the cooking settle back down, cool down, and go back into their little pockets where they belong. And they should not run out all over your cutting board. So you'll have a nice juicy piece of prime rib. That juice won't be on the cutting board. Okay, both of our roasts are out of the oven and they're plated and they're ready to go and they look delicious. I'm just going to use some of the leftover fresh herbs that I used in the rubs as garnish. Some parsley and thyme. And some of the cranberries too I saved from our cranberry sauce. We have an easy cranberry sauce recipe on beeftips.com that goes with the prime rib. Also on the website, beeftips.com, you can find all of this great information I talked about today. So if you happen to have leftover or planned over holiday roast, so prime rib or tenderloin, here's a really quick, easy tip to make it into a second meal. I took 1 large loaf or 1 large baguette and I sliced it, and then I just broiled it a couple minutes to get it a little crunchy, and then I have a flavored cream cheese, and I'm just going to use that on my crostinis as my base. And then I'm going to take my tenderloin roast slices and just cut them in half and top my crostinis. And then I caramelized some onions, just simply a couple sweet onions in a saute pan, and a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, and I added a little balsamic vinegar and brown sugar. And I made those ahead. I'm just going to put those on top. And you have a super simple appetizer recipe, or this would even be just a great meal if you just wanted to do a little finger food. And you don't even need a recipe, super easy. Thank you for joining us today and watching our Wisconsin Beef Council holiday roast cooking video. Head to beeftips.com for all of these recipes, all of our cooking tips, everything you need to know to make a perfect holiday meal.